Recorded live at Talks and Tasting Studios, it's the Clerical Errors Podcast, the podcast that shows you what's behind the collar. Let's go.
From the Talks and Tasting Studios, this is a Clerical Errors Podcast, the podcast that shows you
what's behind the collar.
This is Bollhagen.
This is Berg.
And this is Vicar.
Peter's here.
Hey, Pete.
All right. We're having a few issues. Peter's a little annoyed. That's all right.
Take two.
We're getting through it. How you doing, Berg?
Oh, just living the dream.
Living the dream. All right. Did you enjoy the Super Bowl?
Yes, I did.
You get that out there?
I did. It was fun to watch. Halftime show was kind of interesting, but
yeah,
it was a bit of a throwback.
Right.
Well, you know, we do live in a decadent time, and it shows how decadent it is when you try to bring back Michael Jackson and sequins clothing.
It's all
when
stuff.
that's like
man.
when that's like an ideal that they're striving for.
Well, you know,
and then you have to love the songs where it's just yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, okay, if I did a halftime show, what would it look like? Would it be that different? Me screaming
probably
over
not.
and over?
Probably, yeah, no.
I mean, would my shirt stay on?
No. But there would also probably be like a bench press competition right in the middle of it.
That's true.
So.
All right. I think Peter would say, I don't think we can ever beat the Dr. Dre Snoop Dogg halftime.
That was a pretty good show, man. Like, here's the thing. They never get good artists. Like, who was really jazzed for this Super Bowl halftime?
Sports bettors.
Right. They should get someone like James Taylor. All right. So we got a lot of fun things. I got a top 12 list that I am excited about.
Yeah.
But first, we need to talk about the text. I think I know, Peter is a little subdued. Maybe it's the Lent thing. Maybe he's been super contemplating Lent.
He's remembering his death.
Or maybe there's equipment that's not working exactly right and it's driving him crazy.
Which is also making him remember his death.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
About to remember your death pretty soon. Peter, cut that out.
Peter, leave that in.
That doesn't work that way, Berg. If he says it's out, it's out. All right.
Well, with all of the technical trouble and that, this leads us into the realm of temptation. And Vicar, what is our reading about?
Our reading is about just that. You want me to summarize or read the whole thing?
Yes. What do you want, Berg? Read it quickly.
Okay.
Wait, no. Don't read it quickly. It's God's word.
Yeah,
read
it
majestically.
Read it with haste.
Read it with your chest.
Bro. So it's Matthew chapter 4. Then Jesus was led up by the Spirit into the wilderness to be tempted by the devil. And after fasting 40 days and 40 nights, he was hungry. And the tempter came and said to him, "If you are the Son of God, command these stones to become loaves of bread." But he answered, "It is written, man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that comes from the mouth of God." Then the devil took him to the holy city and set him on the pinnacle of the temple. And he said to him, "If you are the Son of God, throw yourself down, for it is written, he will command his angels concerning you, and on their hands they will bear you up, lest you strike your foot against a stone." Jesus said to him, "Again it is written, you shall not put the Lord your God to the test." Again, the devil took him to a very high mountain and showed him all the kingdoms of the world and their glory. And he said to him, "All these I will give you if you will fall down and worship me." Then Jesus said to him, "Begone, Satan, for it is written, you shall worship the Lord your God, and him only shall you serve." Then the devil left him, and behold, angels came and were ministering to him. Thus endeth the text.
All right, Vicar. I'm going to pull a Berg move.
Okay.
What are some things from the catechism we can get from this?
Well, you could start with 10 Commandments, right?
Okay, obviously.
Obviously.
Yeah.
There's also...
What commandments?
There's... you could think of the... There's 10 of them at least. For one, I mean, you could go with the first commandment, right?
All right.
So there's...
you shall have no gods before me.
Right. There's also bearing false witness, right? Lying about who these things belong to, which is what the devil is saying, right?
Oh, you have...
these things belong to me. If you will worship me, I'll give them to you.
Taking the Lord's name in vain, speaking for God that things that God didn't actually say, or taking God's word out of context.
Right. So you got the second commandment there, right?
Mm-hmm.
You also have the elements of the Lord's Prayer, right? You give us this day our daily bread. turn these stones into bread, that sort of thing. Also, lead us not into temptation. You shall not put the Lord your God.
Thy will be done.
Thy will be done as well. Yeah.
Thy kingdom come, not the kingdoms of this world that he was offering. Give us this day our daily bread. Did you say that one already?
I did.
All right. I also see here the two natures, the second article. Jesus went out as a hungry man to be tempted as one of us.
Yeah.
We think of it as humiliation, where he's set aside his divine nature to be a human. And so, being hungry, that bread really was a thing. And people might scoff at the last temptation. Oh, yeah, he's going to, if you think about it, he was offering, how many people would think of all the kingdoms of this world could be yours?
Pretty enticing.
Right. And the fact that he was offering them the kingdom without any kind of cross. But we look at this in two ways. One, we can look at how Jesus overcame these temptations. How at the heart of this discussion was a theological discussion. We don't like to necessarily equate theology with temptation, but at the heart of temptation is a bad theology. We see that in the Garden of Eden. Did God really say it all starts with bad theology? And that was really a theological discussion that was at the heart of these temptations. And so that we see how temptation is confronted with the authority of Christ, how his word thwarts these temptations. But then we also see that we are baptized into Jesus overcoming that temptation. So that victory over temptations is our victory, baptized into him, and that gives us strength in the face of our own temptations. What do you have, Berg?
Yeah, I think that last point you said is one that sometimes we forget. Christ, even though he was a son, needed to learn obedience so that he might become the author of salvation, as Hebrews says, Hebrews 5, right? So he does this for our sake in that way, as the source of our salvation. He also does it as an example, and this is actually the part that Luther really brings up when he's talking about the temptation. He actually says here in his annotations on Matthew in volume 67 of the English edition of Luther's works, he says, after the baptism of Christ, in which he was called and was declared a teacher by the authority of the Father, he is now sent into the work of the office he has taken up. But first he is tempted and tested in accordance with our own example, just as is someone who is being educated, lest he undertake some great matter as an inexperienced neophyte, as Paul writes in 1 Timothy 3, verses 4 through 6, and later on, does not remain steadfast in faith in God. For neophytes are often audacious and presume to try great things, but they fall straight away and abandon their office. And so in his annotations here, Luther actually takes a pretty firm line that here, look, Christ is also our example. What does the first temptation teach us? That it is necessary for a Christian, especially a teacher, to experience the risk of poverty and the loss of his goods, right? Belly theology. The second temptation is a spiritual temptation, as Chrysostom says, of vainglory, that you should not do what God has neither commanded nor given you to do, and then make excuse that all things are possible for the one who believes. And then finally, the third temptation is the empty glory and power of the world, avarice, as Chrysostom would say. Would you choose to give up glory and political power rather than the word? And those are the points that Luther brings out here in this text, that, we are baptized as, like Christ was. His was being invested in his particular offices, even though he already possessed them. We are born again by holy baptism and made priests and kings. That also means we'll undergo temptation or testing, and that also means that we have work to do.
Right,
within our offices. So,
and one a Bollhagen-ism is temptation is by nature
tempting,
right?
All right.
Well, I like to move on.
Okay, so
because how I am, I get impatient. Moving on. So, I imagine that there was a commercial during the Super Bowl By the way, I think I know why Peter's kind of overwhelmed. He's in Kansas City the day after the Super Bowl, right?
Mm-hmm.
Must be quite the party atmosphere over there, Pete.
Yeah, that's right.
So there was, I imagine, a commercial that bothered Berg. Which commercial?
Maybe.
You think he'll get it?
Well,
I think he gets us. Yeah.
Yeah.
But do we actually get him?
Yes.
I think that's the more interesting question.
So what I have done is, obviously, there was a He Gets Us commercial with Jesus or people washing each other's feet, right? And asking everyone to go to the website, He Gets Us. So I saved everyone the time, and I went to the He Gets Us website, and I realized I only got 10 of them. So Berg, let me know if one of these counts for 2 for your sake. Okay? So
Okay.
I have the top 12 statements from the He Gets Us website that bother Berg. Peter, play the intro.
Peter, play the intro for the top 12 and the news that bothers Berg at the same time.
There we go.
Here it comes.
There's
Enough
fake
nonsense.
news.
It's
There's
time
real news.
for
Then
Bollhagen's
there's
top
real news
12.
that Berg wishes was fake. It's time to hear news that bothers Berg.
All right, so
That's brilliant. What do you think of the music there, Vicar?
That was amazing. I don't think I've ever heard such beautiful orchestration before.
life will never be the same. All right, so Berg, you have to let me know if or when one of these, I have 2 of them need to count for 2. All right?
Okay.
That makes sense?
Well, hopefully they're that good.
All right,
And they're
number
that
12.
bothersome.
Number 12.
This is all from the He Gets, so no one needs to go to this. Save your time, all right?
Number 12.
Throughout our shared history, Jesus has represented the ultimate good that humankind is capable of aspiring to. And though some no longer believe in God, most still are compelled by the idea of a person capable of unconditional love for others despite their differences.
That might be 2.
Number 11.
That's so bad in so many ways.
That's number 12?
That's super bad, man.
It's only downhill from here.
Yeah,
That's as good as it gets?
Now, I'm not sure these are in order of... Okay. But that might be 2 already.
oofda. That. Do we have to explain why these are bad to people?
I think we should. One is,
All right.
are we capable of aspiring?
No, that's kind of the purpose of Jesus, right?
I mean, this sounds like a Star Trek thing. Like
How about this?
Gene Roddenberry, Jesus is just some sort of image. He's like Captain America or Superman.
Right. And by the end of this top 12 list, I think we'll get their shtick. And I think that's important because once we get their shtick, we'll see why it is that they're pushing this and how other ways this might be, because this isn't an isolated thing, I have a feeling.
No,
if they're
probably
getting
not.
that much money to pay for a Super Bowl ad, this is tempting to a lot of people.
Mhm.
So how about the aspect of, though some no longer believe in God, it's still a good thing, right? You can still try and be like Jesus without believing in God.
Right. I mean, this is the same thing that a lot of Satanists say. They don't actually believe in Satan, but Satan is a picture or, a nice fiction that you try to aspire to.
Right. So that we can aspire to his unconditional love. I think will come up a few times in how they understand unconditional love. All right.
All right.
You ready for the next one?
That was gross.
All right. So actually that was 2. So we're down to...
Number 10.
But Jesus didn't seem to care about us doing it perfectly. His teaching suggests that he wanted us to consider our intentions and to do the work to act from a place of empathy. Eventually, loving our neighbor is an action that can become intuitive.
I think you did it.
I mean, like, I'm trying to understand. I mean, okay, using the 8th commandment liberally here, like liberally, like taking a milk truck full of 8th commandment and coding something. Okay.
All right, a milk truck of the 8th commandment is our title. Okay.
I mean, like, okay, so what they say is sort of true in that they're dividing external actions with internal compassion and the like, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not to say that Jesus didn't say, be ye perfect as my Father in heaven is perfect, but they are getting to something that Jesus does say that, these people draw near to me with their lips, but their hearts are far from me. You tithe the mint and the cumin, and yet neglect the weightier things of justice and mercy, for example.
Right.
I don't know how you get to the point where loving your neighbor is intuitive. What they might mean there is that the new man is perfected in this life so you can just spontaneously do good works, or maybe
without
they,
the gospel.
Well, and that's the thing, is they don't give you the means by which you could actually do intuitive good works. I mean, we preach this all the time, don't we? That the righteous don't know the good works they're doing a lot of the time, right?
Right.
So, I mean, if that's what they mean by intuitively doing good works because the new man is doing them, great. But they don't give the means by which these good works become intuitive. This love becomes intuitive. Either because they don't believe in original sin, or because we'll
get to that.
Whatever. So
I would say
I really tried on that one. Okay, I really tried on that one.
Right, but it's the fact that it becomes intuitive. Certainly in faith, preached on that this past Sunday.
Yeah.
That
I mean, we do believe we are getting better. Like, sanctification is progressing. We do believe that.
Right.
And so you could probably say good works do become more intuitive, or loving your neighbor does become more intuitive, but they forget, like, okay, how is that possible?
Right. And I think that is, that's telling from the previous statement where it says, whether or not someone actually believes in God.
Yeah, it's sort of
isn't this the problem with Jordan Peterson? They see all the inferior goods, right? The psychologist,
right?
The noble pagan, the 12 rules for life, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, he sees all of the inferior goods, and they're still goods, right? Like, going to church statistically means you'll live longer.
Right.
Kids who go to church typically have a larger vocabulary than those who don't. Those who obey their parents, whether they believe or not, are not going to get gunned down by the police, more than likely, and they're going to get their inheritance.
Yeah, it's a strictly functional understanding of faith.
And I mean, I think sometimes we downplay those things because they are true. Like, God does give us lesser goods, but they are lesser. But they're lesser. I mean, like, if you obey the commandments, your life will probably be fairly decent, whether you believe or not.
Yeah.
But, then you burn in hell for all eternity. So, potato, tomato.
All right. Was that a double? Am I on 9 or 8?
I don't know.
We're going to end up in the negatives if we keep doing doubles.
We can't keep doing doubles, so.
Right.
Number 9.
Now, this isn't quite offensive, but it shows a theme here, okay? During his last meal with his closest followers, the 12 disciples, Jesus retrieved
So there is
the
close
bowl.
communion. I mean, that's something to rejoice about, right?
There you go. That's right.
Oh, see?
It's always a silver lining.
We get him.
The 12 disciples, Jesus retrieved the bowl, filled it with water, and began washing their feet with a rag. But this wasn't a traditional cleaning after a road trip. Jesus was using foot washing to emphasize a larger point, symbol for all of his followers to see how they should treat one another.
Okay, I don't know what washings are like after road trips.
Right.
I've never done a traditional washing after I've done like a 12-hour stint in the car. So
right. You didn't know like on a long trip.
I mean, are they talking about like burning
cleaning at a truck stop?
Burning Man or something here, or? Well, I mean, like this one is actually not to me as offensive because it's like, he gave them an example of how they were to love one another and serve one another, is what they're saying, right?
Right.
Yeah.
But not talking about the fact that it was a washing.
Yeah.
unless I wash you, you have no part in me.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, well, we can't expect them. I'm just looking for anything here not to be bothered by. So, like, I'm trying
to bother you.
Like,
Bird, ever the optimist.
He's fighting it.
Yeah,
all right, I'm the tempter here.
I am the optimist on this show. Boom, Peter just said it.
All right, I'm going to try harder.
Number 8.
If it was these words and actions of Jesus that inspired us, we began to imagine a world where ideological others were willing to set their differences aside and wash one another's feet.
Okay.
So, one thing this told us is, so like, we're all have differences. It doesn't matter. We're all going to love and accept each other.
Yeah, but that word ideology is such a loaded word.
Right.
I mean,
'Cause
you could maybe make a point that Simon the Zealot and Matthew the tax collector were ideologically others. One was a lackey for the Roman Empire who, enslaved his own countrymen, and Simon the Zealot was a terrorist or a freedom fighter, depending on your view, for the Jewish people, right?
Right. But it's setting the side of differences, not like abolishing them.
Yeah, I mean, like, this is basically saying that, yeah, these things you believe, they don't really matter. Why can't we be friends? Why can't we be friends?
It's kind of like, imagine like Jesus and the devil in the wilderness, right?
Right.
Let's share this bread. I know we've had a rough past. we always haven't seen eye to eye.
Well, and this seems like a boomer sort of move. My apologies to boomers, because, like, this is like, oh, the Democrats of 40 years ago and the Republicans of 40 years ago, when they're just, talking about things like, how much are we going to tax people? Or should we allow free trade?
Do you know what this is? I just realized where this all began. This all began with a Coca-Cola commercial.
Yeah, probably.
Right? Where people like, oh, we're going to set aside all our differences and share a Coke, that whole thing.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah, like, I think it's great to talk with people, right? And to love others and desire their repentance. But this is not desiring any repentance.
Well, and ideological others, like, this doesn't take seriously that, like, okay, if you want to destroy the state of Israel or preserve it, I mean, that's like a deep chasm. Right. If you want to mutilate children or murder babies, like, that's a pretty deep chasm.
By the way, did you notice one of the pictures of the foot washing was someone washing a woman's feet in front of an
abortion clinic?
Yeah.
Now, let's just Eighth Commandment, milk truck of Eighth Commandment here. Okay.
Okay.
Can you be forgiven if you had an abortion?
Yes.
Absolutely. Right? Like, the church is for you. Like, we want people to repent.
Right.
We want people to be saved. We want people to change their minds. We want them, but that's the thing, is there are some ideologies, quote unquote, that simply cannot coexist with the Christian faith. You cannot be a communist and be a Christian. Because communism, by its very nature,
is
gets
we
rid
are
of
your
God.
God.
Yeah. I mean,
Right.
So, like, mutilating children or doing evil things to your body, that does not, like, you can't just say, well, we'll agree to disagree. No, that's not true. Like, this isn't about taxes or plowing our roads or whatever, okay? This is like cutting off kids' genitalia, okay? Yeah. You don't come back from that.
Number 7.
The name of Jesus has been used to harm and divide. But if you look at how he lived, you see how backward that really is. Jesus was not exclusive. He was radically inclusive. What would our world look like if that were the norm? If strangers became friends over the dinner table as they did around Jesus?
Okay, they just were about open communion. And I mean, what they're doing is they're putting forth a false dichotomy that Jesus is simultaneously exclusive and inclusive.
Right.
No one can come to the Father except by me.
Didn't Jesus say specifically, I came to bring division?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I came not to bring peace, but a sword. Oh, well, I don't know what Bible you're reading, guys, but,
Get a
Message
real Bible.
translation.
get a real Bible.
That's right.
All right. You ready for the next one, or do you want to talk more about that one?
It's so stupid. Like, yeah, I mean, Jesus is inclusive. Like, he wants everybody to be a member of his church.
Huh?
Like, he himself is our peace. He has broken down the hostility, making two men into one, as Ephesians says. Yes, absolutely. He is also exclusive, saying, if you don't believe in me, you're going to hell.
Right.
So,
Two things at once.
All right,
not
next one.
mutually exclusive.
All right, this one isn't so bad. This wasn't it. I don't think
This is
one
probably the worst one, I bet.
Number 6.
Jesus welcomed the weird, loved the weird, and built a movement full of weirdos that ended up changing the world. The example reminds us that every person has incredible value, and their story and their identity, no matter how strange, are beautiful and important.
If
Actually, it's kind of
if you could have just crossed out that last little bit, it would have been okay.
What? I'm sorry. What was the last bit again?
And their story and their identity, no matter how strange, are beautiful and important.
How gross.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, yeah.
That's just the last one again, right? Like, because of that little last, like,
Yeah.
whatever you think.
Yeah,
Oh no,
essentially.
that's very important.
Yeah,
You're valid.
It's like, okay.
Your is an identity that you make, not that you're given by Christ.
Yeah, I mean, it plays into the whole self-maker fallacy, right? That you can make your own identity and be whoever you want.
Well, and that's the thing is like, we do this podcast because we're weirdos.
Yeah.
Like, think about it. We have the
Didn't we have
audacity to think that people will listen to us.
My whole comedy show that I did where pastors are weird.
Yeah, we're super weird. Like,
Yeah, if you don't think pastors are weird, you should visit the seminary.
oh, man. Oof, yeah.
Or meet a vicar or two.
Yeah, that'll do it too.
Right. I mean, that's why I want to have a podcast with the vicars because, yeah. I mean, we're called clerical errors because we are a little self-aware that we're weird.
Yeah,
Well,
that's what
We
makes
kind
it
of
fun,
lean into that.
right?
Well, and I understand their point is, like, forced conformity in a lot of things is bad. Okay? It is. Like, let people develop the talents that they have.
And
That's one thing I've got to thank my parents for is like, they never made me feel bad that I didn't want to be a farmer,
Yeah.
that I read a lot. I mean, I was never ostracized by them for that. So, and I feel bad for the people that were, where people have to conform to a particular image or a particular vocation or a particular set of interests. I mean, yeah, that sucks. That's terrible.
And what happens here is this happens all the time, is it generates a problem that certainly as a church, we sometimes have trouble recognizing and reaching out to people. It's kind of like when you're in a meeting and, we need to get more young families.
Yeah.
Really? Is that, I mean, it's important, but we don't,
How do you do that?
How about the people in the nursing home too? They kind of need Jesus.
Yeah,
or,
I mean, sounds kind of mercenary to me.
Right.
And I mean,
Right.
if you really want to be mercenary, then you just say, yeah, let's get the people in the nursing home so they invest a lot of money in us after they're dead.
Right.
I mean,
Or
really.
in some places, if you talk about, we want to do some more work around the Hispanic and the community, their heads explode.
Oh, yeah.
That said,
not
if you
good.
want to support the Clerical Errors podcast, make sure you leave me 15% of your net worth.
I mean, we'll take bequests. I mean, like,
Right.
I figure you're already listening and enjoying this, so, you might as well keep this going after you're dead.
Number 5.
During his life, Jesus' emotions were well recorded in the Bible. He was...
Okay, wait. Really?
Right.
So, let's cast,
Yeah.
let's,
I think he was mad once. He was sad
we're
another
getting to
time.
that.
He was upset a couple times.
Actually, in Mark, he's angry a lot.
Oh,
It's like 3 or 4
Right.
times for sure. So,
Hey, we're actually getting to that.
okay.
All right, let's
going.
let him finish. Yeah.
All right. He was said to have cried, loved, rejoiced, and yes, he felt anger. On more than one occasion, he was angered by those who wouldn't stop mistreating others after being called out. He grew angry when people lacked compassion while witnessing suffering. You okay, Berg? He didn't like seeing the rich take advantage of the poor or the power-hungry feed on the weak, and hypocritical leaders who did all those things and more. Now that really got under his skin.
I mean,
Is this Chat GPT?
yeah, probably.
In conclusion, every chat GP has in conclusion paragraph. Not that I know.
GPS, not GPT.
So what made you laugh?
Well, all of it. I mean, like, the ancient literature of the Bible is very, very different than today, where, you get a romance novel and
Right.
you know what everyone's thinking and feeling, and you don't get that from Christ. Like, we know from Isaiah that he's a man of sorrows. The time that he rejoiced in the Holy Spirit, saying, I thank thee, Father in heaven, that thou hast hidden these things from the wise and prudent and revealed them unto babes.
I like how the whole fact that they talk about how Jesus started this movement of unconditional love. Like, any church history, like, what did that movement actually look like? Like, while the entire early church was a continual argument on theology.
Yeah.
Well,
They were
and
just
like
all about love until
The
Constantine
movement
came
that they're
along. That's right.
upholding was never movement as they imagined it.
Well, and that's the thing is like, when was Jesus angry? He was angered by their unbelief. He wasn't angered because they were oppressing people. He was angered in Mark because they didn't believe.
Right.
Because it's like, okay, guys, I'm here. Like,
Right.
I just did a miracle.
Right. It's kind of like
You're too stupid to get it.
like Jesus welcomed the tax collectors and the prostitutes. However, it's a people who thought they were better than others that he couldn't stand.
Yeah, it's not like he told the tax collectors and prostitutes to stop it, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
Right,
look at Zacchaeus. Like, you want to talk about a dude who, I mean, this is like communism. Okay?
Right. This
the power
follows one of
elites.
my favorite lines by a rapper, that the only heresy seems to be that saying that there's heresy.
Well, and like, the people in power are so bad and the rich people are so bad, and that, oh yeah? Well, he ate with Zacchaeus.
Right.
He said the tax collectors and the prostitutes were getting into heaven before the Pharisees. Like,
And Zacchaeus was really short.
yeah, he was really short, and he was really a terrible dude because he probably sold a lot of people into slavery. Oh, we're saying in 2024 that, we don't have a problem with that
Right.
anymore, I guess.
But at
Jesus
least he didn't
loved
think he was better than
slavery.
everybody else, like those other people that got underneath Jesus' skin, right?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Ooh, that really burned his hiney. All right. Is that a twofer? Is that a twofer?
I don't know. Do we still need 2? That's probably a 3-fer. I don't know.
Number 4. Number 3.
Like,
Okay.
this sucks.
It's
All
a
right.
2 plus a special mention.
All right. We are at number
4?
if that was
How
a
many do you
twofer,
have left?
I've got 2 more.
All right.
Cool. Number 2.
Number 2.
Number 2.
Number 2.
Number 2.
Children's innocence makes them capable of demonstrating the kind of compassion, love, and forgiveness that many of us cannot experience ourselves anymore.
These people don't have any kids.
Well, it's also kind of ironic about this is that children's innocence is seen as a sort of privilege that they need to be broken of. So like lauding children for having this privilege, but yet they're also the same people
Right.
who will say that they need to be shown pornographic material, these sorts of things to get rid of that innocence.
Right.
Like, come on.
I mean, what's just funny about this is like if a 2-year-old grows up in Iowa, right? A 2-year-old in Iowa by nature is racist, man.
Yeah.
Like the first time they encounter a black person, right? I mean, that's innocence.
Systemic racism, man. The problem is the system. It's not the kids, right?
It's ingrained.
You're just a brick in the wall.
All right.
Great job, Berg. You hit quota. Let's see if you can get one more to hit the over.
Okay.
All right.
Trying to make a Taylor Swift song, too.
Right. So I guess this would be anti-infant baptism. Well,
Okay.
like they haven't really brought a baptism at all anyways.
They don't even
or
know what that means.
salvation or anything.
Well, I mean, first of all, they don't know anything about human beings. Like, frankly, anyone who thinks kids are innocent are dumb. Like, this is why the ancients were actually, this is why Jesus had to say, no, the kingdom of heaven, is given to these. Why?
Right.
Because they're like, yeah, kids are selfish and they're a burden.
Right.
And they, like, he's reacting to that because
Right.
frankly, the ancients had a much better way of viewing children than this sort of milksop, oh, kids are such angels and kids are so good and blah, blah, blah. No, go spend a bunch of time with 2-year-olds. Go to a preschool and stay there for about 2 weeks. Then
2
you will
hours.
know.
Be there that long.
Right. All right, I'm going to give an example that every
No, I want to
father-
scar these people so they never forget how selfish children are.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
I'll give you an example that every father knows. Okay. Right. Let's see if you can connect with this, Berg.
All right.
That when you have a child that's nursing, let's say 6 months old, right? And you're in the room, they give you this look, like, stay away, Dad.
My kid will steal food off my plate, even though he has enough food on his own plate. But then if I take a French fry from his plate, you'd think
I did that at your wedding, by the way. You remember that?
No, I don't actually.
It was at your reception. You're at the head table. I say, congratulations, Berg. And I took some food off your plate and started eating it.
That's good. Because I'm not a child.
That's right.
I know that there's more food.
And you gave me the look that I love from you. Like, what are you doing?
Like, not mad, just
What's
baffled.
going on? Yeah, just confusion.
He's not mad. He's just disappointed.
All right. Are you ready for number one?
All right.
And number 1.
He, referring to Jesus, created division, stirred up controversy. Many of his followers walked away because his teachings of unconditional love were as radical then as they are today. His denouncement of hate, bigotry, and pride didn't sit well with the powerful, the elitists, and the sanctimonious. They did everything they could to make him uncomfortable in their religious services because he made them uncomfortable. But that didn't stop Jesus from attending or questioning.
Okay, you can't have it both ways. You can't alienate the populace because you tell them, unless you eat my flesh and drink my blood, you have no life in you.
Right.
And then also say, well, the elites were just really angry at him too.
Right.
So basically, Jesus offended everybody. He was an equal opportunity offender.
And who's paying $10 million to have a commercial on the Super Bowl? Not the elites.
This has got to be boomer stuff. They must think that this actually works, right?
Right. It's just funny because everything we've read so far has been very sanctimonious.
It right? Really has. I mean,
and it says how Jesus upset the sanctimonious. Is he still Ron de Sanctimonious?
No, he retired that.
Okay.
He retired it.
All right. So what are some themes we see in here? One is no actual mention of true forgiveness. I noticed when they did talk about Jesus forgiving the people who were killing him on the cross. But that had nothing to do with actual eternal forgiveness. It was just as an example to forgive those who have hurt you.
Yeah,
That's
I mean, they talked a lot about unconditional love, which is the law.
Nothing about salvation.
Nothing about salvation. Nothing about... Yeah.
It's just all kind of humanistic.
I mean, if this is supposed to be the marijuana that gets people into the PCP of Christianity, it's not going to work. This is not the gateway drug to get people into Christianity.
Right. Yes. This what this does is it just builds up a stereotype of Christians that makes it hard for the church to ever talk to them.
Yeah. Like, how do we unteach this stuff?
Right. Well, I don't want to go to a church now.
I mean, frankly, like, this is not to win people over who are not Christians. This is for Christians to say, hey, maybe you shouldn't be such a jerk.
Right. Well, maybe. Yeah, I can understand.
Let's just be honest. This is what this is. Because what pagan is going to look at this and say, yeah, that's what I want?
Yeah.
I mean, it might be I don't know, maybe for like edge cases, it might be a starting place for somebody who may have no like actual experience with the church. I mean, but I don't see that working very well for them.
The things I see today is I think a lot of the liberal leftist stuff comes out of a perversion of Christianity. And so a lot of the reaction to that is actually Nietzsche and paganism. So like you look at the Bronze Age pervert, as he's called. You know, I mean, Nietzsche definitely has his own issues, but like, and they all base it off of it. But the reactions to this kind of stuff are a sort of virile, more masculine, and these guys are choosing other things. Like, this is why National Socialism is still a thing in this country among a very small group. So, like, this is more effeminate.
Right.
This is not heroic. This is not anything that is going to attract any sort of male.
All right. So, if people have comments or questions,
they can get a hold of us multiple ways. They can email us at feedback@clericalerrors.org. They can also find us on Facebook at facebook.com/clericalerrors. Or they can tweet at us.
At me, bro.
At clericalerrorsp.
Ask us a question, bro. Hey, we'll listen to all kinds. You're welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, you've got a seat at the table waiting for you.
Yes. Yeah.
You get us.
Help
whether
us
you want it
get
or
you.
not.
Right. And we'll come at you with a whole milk truck of Eighth Commandment.
We tried.
All right. So what's next? We have a question from Hannah.
Do we?
Yes, you prepared, goofball.
Okay.
You emailed it to me.
Do I have to?
Did I just all the goodness in your heart? I actually succeeded in driving out of you.
I think so. Like, I'm just kind of like dead inside now.
All right. So Hannah, we got your question about the storybook. We will have an answer next time. We have another email to get to. We have an update from our superfan. What does our superfan have to say here?
Vicar, do you mind?
Yeah. He says, hey all, first of all, report on the Ember Days. Still waiting for March so I can get the averages in. Going to check the results for this year and for at least 5 years back to see how close we get. I expect that this was a much more reliable method of determining the weather before geoengineering was a thing, but I don't think I can invest in that study right now. The final report can be given in writing, as a slideshow, or as a song. As for cap or no cap, I got some stuff for you. I was actually gearing up to start a game show podcast to replace the sadly ended Table Talk Radio, but then a ban was instituted against seminarians making podcasts, so I had to shelf it. I had already printed decks of Guess the LCMS RSO.
Oh no, are you in danger?
Wait a minute.
No, I can't start my own podcast, but I can be on this podcast.
Oh, this has already been a discussion.
Yes.
Such tyranny. I hate it.
Anyway, I have tons of material ready to go, including a chonky volume of Bible trivia. I can get you guys pages and pages of true false questions that way. I will also be begin a running list of daily life sort of questions if you are more into that angle.
All right, that's cool.
Yeah, that is really cool. He continues, I have one request. We have been sore lacking in gym talk lately, so if anything comes to mind, I think I speak for all the fans when I say that we are eager for more segments with fitness tie-ins. It would be super based.
All right. Yeah. What does based mean?
Based in reality, so something
Okay.
True. Yeah, that's great.
It's the opposite of cringe.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a good explanation.
Okay.
Okay. Oh, one last thing. Ad Crucium is getting ready to publish a volume of Professor David Scare's articles from Concordia Theological Quarterly over the last 50-odd years that give a history and theological response to the rise and embedding of antinomianism in the Confessional Lutheran Church. I co-edited the volume, but due to the ban on seminarians being involved in publishing of any sort, my name will not appear on the first edition.
Boo.
Man, there's so a lot of tyranny going on over there.
Boo.
When it is ready, I would like to send you all a copy and let you decide if you would like to promote it on the show. Ad Crucium is selling the book, basically at cost, and a free PDF version will also be available.
Yes.
The goal is, yeah, that's pretty awesome. The goal is to get a copy into the hands of every seminarian and anyone else who will read it and hopefully reduce the popularity of this error. Anyway, hit me back about what you want for cap or no cap and the format for the Ember Days report. Stay golden.
All right. First of all, cap or no cap, have a question, a statement, anything where you have wondered, is this cap or is this no cap? I don't know how I could get any clearer than that, superfan. You might be a seminarian who is overthinking a little bit.
Yeah, if you've got some cap or no cap stuff, just send it our way.
Right. Whether, like, for example, wearing hats in church.
Cap or no cap.
See? I get it.
Yeah.
All right. And what do you guys think about his report on the Ember Days?
Good.
He's putting a lot of work in.
He's putting a lot of. I kind of like, like right now the trend is for people to sound smart, and oh yes, I've researched the meta-analysis of.
Which usually just means they read the abstract.
Right. So this is I've decided what I want. You guys could disagree. Is I want like a super pseudo scientifical report.
I like the idea.
Where almost like a parody on all the pseudo scientific.
Yeah, I mean, like
that we
Bigfoot was molting a month before he should have.
I think
The Jersey
I have a
Devil
better
laid
idea.
eggs, you know.
I think I have a
more
better
eggs
idea.
than he normally does.
You want a scientific report, maybe like a parody. I want a true crime podcast.
Yeah.
He can't do that though.
He can't, but he can join our podcast.
I was just about to say, maybe
He
we can
can-
give the
yes.
superfan an
He can
invite.
send.
We
uh,
exist.
We
there
exist.
are two pastors on roster. They are screwed.
Okay.
They can't.
So what I want,
they
my
can't
format that I want for
be
the Ember
against
Days,
us.
I want you to send in your best, either scientific podcast like parody or like a true crime parody. Like you're like disproving Ember Days or you're trying to silence the haters or something like that. I'll edit it all down. All you need to do is give me raw audio. I'll make you sound super good. And you can record with your iPhone. If you got an iPhone, it sounds pretty decent. Just do like a voice memo and send it to me.
Right. It's in the ball's in your court now.
Whatever you want to do. We're not going to make you do anything. But
do the whole thing where it's like a VCR, where it's
that'd be
like
pretty
a
cool.
click, and
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
Or how about what's the one guy from Dateline NBC, like in his voice?
Oh, Hanson?
Not the Catch a Predator guy.
That's the Catch a Predator. Whoops. Although it would be pretty funny if it was
Ember
that.
Days. Ember Days, what are you doing here?
Sir, why don't you take a seat?
Record the whole thing as Craig Ferguson.
All right, are we done?
Bigfoot,
think
would
we're
you please
done.
take a seat?
Bigfoot, please take a seat. It's so funny.
All right. I think we've fallen off the rails officially. I think we should probably end this before.
Oh, hopefully we made it to an hour. I don't know.
Right.
The recording is much longer than that, but
Oh, I think with as much content we got enough for a show.
I think so.
So,
Yeah, no, we got a show. I don't know if we made it have an hour, but we have a show.
all right. It's going to need some editing. Sorry, Pete.
Is no
Well,
thing.
So, this is the end of the show. This is Bollhagen.
This is Berg.
And this is Vicar.
And may your 8th commandment be milky.
Thank you for joining us. This podcast is available on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, or wherever else you get your podcasts. Questions, thoughts, concerns? You can contact us on Facebook at facebook.com/Clerical Errors Podcast, on Twitter at Clerical Errors P for podcast, or email us at feedback@clericalerrors.org. Thanks for listening to Clerical Errors. See you next time.